Morning, everyone. I think we're ready to get started, just to try and keep on time. So for those of you who are not in the opening session, again, my name is Jonathan Wood. I'm the current Chair and Chief Engagement Officer, of the Toronto Accessible Sports Council, otherwise known as TASC. So I'd like to welcome you to the Adaptive Sports and Recreation and Post-Secondary Institutions breakout session, where we'll be hearing from 3 schools who participated in this pilot project and learn firsthand what some of the challenges, successes, and learnings experienced over the course of the project. So just a little background of how the project and how it came about. As I mentioned this morning, TASC's involvement within the Ontario Parasport Collective has very much been focused on identifying gaps to participation in adaptive and parasport, and how at a community grassroots level, we could help bridge those gaps. One area that was identified was within the post-secondary sector. Our early environmental scan of post-secondary institutions in Ontario had confirmed that no permanent adaptive sports and recreation programming was taking place on any campus, and that students with disabilities attending those institutions were left with little opportunity to engage in any meaningful adaptive physical activity on campus. In the summer of 2021, TASC began leading a pilot project to bring adaptive sports and recreation programming to post-secondary institutions in Ontario. Following our environmental scan, we invited schools to participate in the pilot program that would challenge them to design, develop, and deploy a weekly on-campus program intentionally promoted primarily to students with disabilities, their non-disabled peers, and finally, community members. With $10,000 and support from the OPC, each school was given the option to choose the adaptive physical activities that they would run, recognizing that the choice of recreational facilities and accessibility barriers would be unique to each institution. In total, 9 schools participated, starting in the winter-spring term of 2022 to the end of the 2023 academic year. Today, we will hear from 3 of those schools: Carleton University, Lakehead University, and Humber College. So without further ado, I'd like each of the presenters to introduce themselves and their institution prior to delivering their presentation. We will try to have time at the very end for Q&A, so please hold your questions until the very end. Thank you very much. Michael? There you go.
Hello. So good morning, everybody. My name is Michael Ciccoletti. I am from Carleton University, and I work in the Department of Recreation and Athletics. And I'm going to present basically our department's journey in adaptive sport and how we started, where we are currently now with our programming, what we learned along the way. And there's a 5-minute video highlight at the end to kind of show our programs in action. So how it all started was July 2021. Our university received an email from OPC asking what programming do we offer students with disabilities in athletics. And we didn't have an answer. We did have an answer. The answer was 0, right? And that was followed with, well, students with disabilities pay the same athletic fee as students without disabilities. So what are you offering those students? Because they're not getting their money back. So what are you offering those students? And that statement really had an impact on our department. And OPC offered to support the launch of adaptive programming through a Trillium grant, and also providing guidance and a framework to get something off the ground for us. So a month later, we decided to form sort of an adaptive sports committee. And this committee was made up of 5 people. We had management and directors involved. We had somebody from Advancement. So Advancement University is somebody who does grant writing, collects the donations from donors. And we had an adapted athlete. And through discussions in this committee, kind of 2 branches came out. One branch was for adapted sport for Carleton students, and one branch was for community. So we decided for Carleton students, we'd launch a boccia program. And for the community, we wanted to launch a wheelchair basketball program for youth. So at Carleton, we have these youth programs, youth sport programs are called Junior Ravens. And we have a very successful basketball team at Carleton, and we have a very successful Junior Ravens basketball program. So we thought, why not piggyback off the Junior Ravens program and launch a Junior Ravens wheelchair basketball program? So we had this plan in place, but our department is an ancillary, so we generate our own revenue, we pay our own lights, we pay our own staff. So there was a big concern of how are we going to pay for this? Keep in mind, this is COVID, this is 2021, so revenues were down and we couldn't afford to run these programs at a loss. We'd be fine if they were net revenue neutral, but we couldn't lose money running these programs. So there was one option, was a Canadian Tire Jumpstart grant. And we applied for this $43,000 grant in August, so same month as the committee was formed, to launch our wheelchair basketball program. And this grant would cover the purchase of 12 wheelchairs and to cover the staffing of 4 coaches. And the goal was to launch this program in November. So very ambitious timeline here. And then come around September, I get the email along with my colleagues saying your grant has been approved. And I remember getting that email and having this is really happening moment. And I was both very excited. I mean, I've never been a part of a grant this large before, but also very nervous that this is a large amount of money. There's a big responsibility here to make sure this happens. And then Carleton also was chosen to be a pilot project for the Trillium Foundation, received a $10,000 grant in January of 2022 to help launch our Boccia program for Carleton students in the community. So our Junior Ravens wheelchair basketball program launches in November as scheduled. And this was with a partnership with the Ottawa Carleton Wheelchair Sports Association. And program launches, we had 5 participants, and almost all of them were from the OCWSA's program, as they ran their own wheelchair basketball program and they kind of merged with our program. Cost of the program was $50 for 7 classes. Unfortunately, I'm not sure if you remember, if we blocked it out of our mind, we had a shutdown in December. Everything shut down, the university shut down. So the program only ran for 4 classes, but we got it off the ground. And we contemplated a no cost to the program, with the idea being, well, if it's $0, you might get more registrations. But the concern was there's no real buy-in with no cost. So somebody might sign up and then, well, it doesn't cost me money, I might not come to this class. And we really wanted to have consistent registration. So we had a very low cost of $50. And of course, if parents couldn't pay that, we'd waive the fee. Equipment, 12 wheelchairs, $32,000, but brand new wheelchairs. And we had 2 head coaches and 2 assistant coaches. And the 2 head coaches were Sam Graham and Josh Davies, who were the OCWSA vice presidents. And then after the shutdown's over, lockdowns lifted, we launched our Boccia program in February of 2022. We had 10 participants and 7 were Carleton students, which we're very excited about because that was the target audience we want. And it was a pilot, right? We weren't sure how this was going to work out. So it was 2 classes. It ran for 2 weeks and the cost was $0 as we're targeting students. So, hey, it's free. Come try it. There's nothing to lose here. And this was ran by the Ontario Cerebral Palsy Sports Association, and they provided the staff and the equipment, and they were instrumental in getting this program off the ground as they were the experts in this area. So we got our feet wet, right? So we got these 2 programs off the ground. We're feeling confident, and we had this idea that we can do this, right? This is something that's possible, but we just didn't want to stop at 2. We wanted to do more. What else can we do? And I always like to use the analogy of the snowball kind of going down the hill and getting more momentum, getting bigger and bigger. So fast forward to today. So now in November of 2023, we currently offer 6 adaptive programs for students and the community. So our Junior Ravens wheelchair basketball program is still running. It's going to its 7th iteration this winter. And to date, we've had 64 registrations in that program. Our Boccia program is still running. It's going into its 5th iteration this winter, 27 registrations to date, and almost half of them are CU students. And this program is really targeting the CU students, so we're happy to see those registration numbers there. We also launched an inclusive dance program last fall, and this program ran for 2 semesters. Unfortunately, the instructor was no longer available to continue with the program. However, we've had 9 registrations, and again, almost more than half have been Carleton students. And something that I'm very proud about is I kind of oversee our summer camps. We launched an adaptive summer sports camp in the summer of 2022. And we had 4 registrations in 2022, and that's almost doubled last summer. We ran it again in 2023, and we had 7. And that's something that I think this camp runs alongside with all other camps. Carleton Athletics, we have a massive summer camp program, 800 kids a day, and this camp is smack dab in the middle with those camps. We also have an adaptive strength and flexibility course we offer to Carleton students. It only ran for 1 semester last winter. Again, the program's on pause because the staff is not available, but we think we have somebody lined up for this coming winter, which we're hopeful. 6 registrations, all Carleton students. And keep in mind that every single program we offer is free for Carleton students to register. It costs them $0. And the last one, which I think our department is really proud about, is our power swimming program that we launched in conjunction with many other partners. This program launched last March in 2023. It's still running. It's had 45 registrations to date, and 8 of them have been CU students. So over this kind of journey here, there are a lot of takeaways. And from my personal experience, I feel like there are 3 major pillars to the success of these programs. And that's been our partners, our staff, and our funding. So these are all the partners who have helped us along this journey. And without these partners, we would not have the success that we've had. These partners have been crucial to our success, and we would not have been able to do it without their support. And what we learned too is that the partners have the expertise. So it's important to rely on them. And I think a good example of this is Emily Glossop from Abilities Ottawa. Emily, in my opinion, has been instrumental in helping us along this journey and giving us the confidence to do this. She's helped us with, making sure we're using proper terminology in our program descriptions and making sure we're collecting the right information at registration so that we can be prepared to accommodate the needs of participants when the programs start. She's helped us with staff training, most importantly, staff referrals, because finding staff is very difficult. And she's also been a good morale boost for us as well. Good example, we launched this program, Junior Ravens Wheelchair Basketball, in November, 5 registrations. And we're used to programs selling out in hours. We're used to seeing 90 kids register for Junior Ravens Basketball. So when we had 5, we thought we failed. We were hoping for 12, right? We had 12 chairs, 12 registrations, and we were disappointed. And she said, listen, for a new program, that's an excellent start. You have to adjust your expectations for adaptive programming versus non-adaptive programming. The partners also know the community, and it's important to invite them to your programs when possible. A great example of this is the OCWSA. We had the equipment, we had the gym space, we had the storage space. OCWSA says we have the participants. So this merger was crucial to the success of our Junior Ravens Wheelchair Basketball program, because we didn't know how to get these participants to come. They brought them here, and they've been very happy with this partnership ever since. And also, partners can help validate your programming and build trust with the community. So Carleton was new to adapted sports. So who are we to launch these programs? And Carleton students and community members are asking, do they know what they're doing? So having the support and the partnerships with these communities shows the community that we're not doing it by ourselves. Staffing, example, no staff equals no program. Our adaptive strength and flexibility is not running. Our inclusive dance program is not running because we don't have staff. So finding experienced staff, we found to be very difficult. And it's important that if you are thinking about launching programs, is to kind of work backwards when possible. So when you're doing your program planning, the initial stages should also be who can run this program and when can they run this program. You don't want to have your equipment, your space, your registrations, and figure out the staff later. And it's also important that you pay your staff well. You don't pay them a couple dollars above minimum wage. These are experienced staff with expertise. You want to compensate them for that. And also, when possible, providing professional development opportunities, coaching certifications, fitness certifications, benefits them, and it also benefits you as you're improving the quality of your programs, and also might increase your staff retention. And lastly, funding. So we know that adaptive programming can be very expensive, and we wanted to provide quality equipment and quality experiences. So examples, wheelchairs, $2,600 each, a full set of competitive bocce sets, $450. And if you're offering reduced or zero cost registration fees, then there's no revenue coming in. So the 2 grants I talked about before that really helped us was Canadian Tire Jumpstart. To date has provided $68,000 in funding to Carleton Athletics. And we've used almost all of that money up to either launch programs or keep programs running at their capacity. And the Trillium Foundation grant, $10,000 to Carleton Athletics, was instrumental in getting our bocce program off the ground and continuing to run, and help with our power swim launch as well. So now I just want to show a quick 5-minute video which highlights our adaptive program, but also you get an opportunity to hear the voices of our participants, our coaches, and our partners.
Hi, I'm Sydney Weaver. I am a 5th-year student at Carleton University, and I'm an adapted athlete in the sport of bocce. When I talk to people and they're like, how did you start in bocce? I'm always like, I started playing at Carleton. Like, I was always proud to say I attended Carleton. But when they showed commitment and dedication to bringing bocce and keeping the bocce program alive, it meant a lot to me. Like, the fact that they were willing to make that commitment. Outside in the community, there isn't a lot of grassroots opportunities for students with disabilities or young adults with disabilities to get involved. So for Carleton to make a space for students with disabilities, it really does mean a lot, because if it wasn't for Carleton and their commitment to inclusion, I wouldn't have had the opportunities within the sport that I've had.
I know myself as a former Carleton student. I lived in residence for 4 years. If I could have rolled out of my residence building, used the tunnels, and came to this gym to play every week, would have been a lot easier. Yeah, my name is Sam Graham, and I'm the vice president of the Ottawa Carleton Wheelchair Sports Association. And I also work as a disabilities coordinator at the Paul Men's Center at Carleton. Our organization, OCWSA, is the oldest wheelchair basketball program in Canada. This is kind of the first opportunity that a local organization has had access to Carleton facilities, which for parasport programs, for programs for athletes with disabilities, access to premier facilities is very difficult. We feel very fortunate to have access to this space. It makes it very easy for students to come and join in. And I think we've done a good job merging the facility space that Carleton has offered with us to helping them get their Junior Ravens program off the ground. So it's been a nice partnership.
The fact that Carleton is willing to put the energy into these programming for their students first and foremost, but then also opening it up to the community is just so huge. My name is Darda Sales. I am the para swimming development consultant working with Swim Ontario to enhance this programming for individuals with impairments. With it being tied to a university, I think it's so many opportunities that are there. There is, first of all, there's the passionate people behind it that are recognizing that this is something important to do for the student body, but also for the community, and how it is a gap currently in the system. And we like to think of universities as being forward thinking and leaders. And I think in this realm, Carleton definitely is. And I think it also shows that Carleton is taking steps to provide opportunities for their students that aren't available at other universities. They're recognizing that 15 to 20% of their population has some form of impairment, and they need to be able to provide programming for them across the university, but also within the recreation realm. And so I'm really excited to see how this program will grow and how we can bring people in and address those initial steps towards whatever is next for them in their swimming adventures.
As these programs grow and as we identify new potential programs, I think what's just really, really important is the value of that collaboration and the value of the partnership, and ensuring that each member of that team feels as though they are part of that team. So my name is Emily Glossop, and I'm the Executive Director of Abilities Ottawa. And we are an organization that advocates, educates, and facilitates program in and around inclusive and parasport programming. We try our best to be aware of all of the organizations in our community who provide inclusive and parasport programming. And I think for us, it's really important that we recognize that if we work together as a collective or partner or collaborate on things, we can make really wonderful things happen. It all started with a grant for post-secondary schools and institutions to be able to engage their own students with disabilities in recreation and sport. And now it's grown to not just their students, but also the community. And so this started with the Ontario Parasport Collective, support from TASC, Toronto Accessible Sport Council, support locally here from the Abilities Ottawa team. And then we have all of our amazing sport organizations. We have the Ottawa Carleton Wheelchair Sports Association. We have dance and our dance instructor who's come in to create the inclusive dance program. We have bocce, which comes from the Ontario and Canadian Cerebral Palsy Sports Associations. We have fitness training with our qualified instructors supporting students and community members in their fitness goals. And then we're also now including para swimming. So that's a link and partnership and collaboration with Swim Ontario. You know, so for Abilities Ottawa to have had that initial connection with Paul Menton and the READ Initiative, it's just pretty amazing to see how one small little idea has now grown to a new department within Carleton University. You know, it's come full circle. We're now including our whole community, and we'll just see how far we can go.
The biggest thing with Carleton having this program is that students with disabilities have the chance to feel included in an athletic environment. It's really changed my outlook and who I am. And for that reason, Carleton Athletics and the bocce program will always be a part of who I am.
So I just want to thank all of our partners again. I'll say time and time again that we would not have the success with our adaptive programming without all of their support and contributions. My contact information is there if you have any questions, if you're looking to launch programming, adapted summer camps or any kind of programming. I do have a lot of vowels in my name, so it might be easier to contact the Ravens Adaptive at Carleton if you want to write that down. But thank you again.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for sticking around and joining us. So I'm here today to present on behalf of Lakehead University and what we're doing up in Thunder Bay, Ontario. My name is Taryn Klarner. My pronouns are she, her. I'm an assistant professor at Lakehead University in the School of Kinesiology. My entrance into the world of sport, into the world of adaptive sport, was through figure skating. I skated for Team Canada for 6 years. The end of the red arrow points to me right there, very committed to my shoot the duck. This photo was taken at the World Championships in Milan, Italy. And it was sport that first got me interested in kinesiology. And at my figure skating club in Georgetown, we had some members who had hearing impairments. So they wanted to engage in figure skating, but couldn't communicate with the coaches. So 11-year-old Taryn took it upon herself to learn American Sign Language, just the basics, so that I could engage in figure skating with people who love the sport as much as me. So I was capable and available and willing, so I said yes, and that has been my entrance into the world of adapted sports, and very similar to how I got invested into this program as well. I went on to get my PhD. I really love teaching, but that was an important career role for me. And now I teach a course called Adapted Physical Activity. This is a required course in our program. And this has given me another launch or a lens into the world of adapted sport. I'm from Thunder Bay, Ontario. We are 16 hours north of where we are now. Most people think the province stops at Sault Ste. Marie, but there's lots beyond the Sault and even lots beyond Thunder Bay. We have a population of 110,000 people. We have only 8,000 people at Lakehead, so it's about a 20th of the size of Carleton University. So, but not that doesn't preclude us from, having adapted sports. There are still people with disabilities in our city, and they still need an opportunity to engage and to play. And I just like to acknowledge that I live, work, and play on the traditional territory of Fort William First Nation and other First Nations and Métis people in the area. So I also got an invitation and an email. At first, it was to review my course syllabus for my adapted course. And the ask was, do you want to bring parasports to your university? I immediately stuck my hand up and said, pick me, I want to do that. And to me, as an academic member, this is the perfect dovetailing of my service, my research, and my teaching all in one. So I just wanted to acknowledge TASC and the OPC and the Trillium Foundation for their funds. And unlike other Tri-Council funding that I've got, they wanted to be involved with us after they gave us the money to help us along the way. And that is not a funding model that I have ever been a part of. So I was really happy to have their help and support through the process. So we had two goals initially. The first was to bring parasport programming to post-secondary campuses in Thunder Bay. So not just at Lakehead, but at Confederation College as well. Both of our campuses have about 25% international students. So you've got to imagine some of these people have never heard of adapted sport or never had that experience or engagement from where they're from. So it was really important to bring it to our community. And then our other goal was to embed parasports right in intramural recreation, not on a separate website, not in a separate facility, but right alongside what is already offered to our student bodies. When I got the email, I put together our logic table, just like a recipe lays out the steps and ingredients for delicious cookies, a logic table lays out steps and ingredients for a delicious program. So I put that together in thinking about who are the stakeholders, who are the partners, what are our goals, what are our activities, and it's been good for me to look back at this logic model to see, did we achieve these things 1.5 years later? And one area that really excites me as a teacher is, yes, this program is great because it can bring opportunities for people with disabilities, but through contact theory and social cognitive theory, it also increases relatedness and engagement to accessibility for all populations. So this was a really important lens for me to take in this work as well. Also, Thunder Bay, as I said, is a small community. So I really wanted to not only increase parasports at our post-secondary institutions, but throughout the community of Thunder Bay as well. And everyone works together up north. So it was important that we maintain that collaboration through this project. So of course, there was an opportunity for parasport athletes themselves to be engaged in programming specific for them from the student population and the general population. To me, this was a win for the administrators at my university. Carleton cares about adapted sports. Lakehead University cares about adapted sports. Queens cares, Humber cares. So I think it's important that we get that message out there so that students know these are safe places for you to learn. It's also great for my municipality of Thunder Bay. And I was also thinking a little bit selfishly in my adapted sports class, I place all of my students in community programs. I have 70+ students in the class. I place everyone in a hospital or with Special Olympics or working in adapted sports. And to me, this just made it easy because this was built-in volunteer experiences. I didn't have to work so hard on the placement. So it's also a little bit of a selfish intention there. I partnered with Lakehead Athletics. So they are the department that runs our varsity sports, intramural sports, campus rec, and also our engagement with community. And they were instrumental in getting this program off the ground. For a while, when you searched Ontario Parasport Collective, we were the third search hit on the search engine. So we had our words optimized somehow. And they put all the information on their website. And it was important to me that it was right alongside intramural activity. It wasn't in a separate space. It was right in the list of everything else that all of the student population would see. So we ran a 8-week sitting volleyball program. We were lucky enough to have a student, Bryce Foster, who plays on the Paranational sitting volleyball team. He's a business student at Lakehead. So we had a student who was willing, who knew how to coach the sport. So it was a instant no-brainer for me. Of course, we're spending the money on sitting volleyball nets and running a program. Each week we had 8 to 16 people engaged in our program. Mainly they were Lakehead students with and without disability, and we also invited community members to be engaged as well. The cost was free for participants to sign up and to play the program, and that was in thanks to our generous funders and donation. But it's interesting that Michael was talking about what do you pay the coach, and we struggled with that. Do we pay them the same? Do we pay them different? Our whole intention and lens was that this is alongside the same as other sports, so we concluded that we pay them the same amount. So I don't know if that's a good model, a bad model. I was talking to some managers at City of Toronto yesterday. They were telling me their parasport athletes get paid less than other sport athlete coaches. So yeah, I don't know. I guess we have to have some consensus on what we pay these coaches and how much training they're given. All of our coaches at Lakehead receive accessibility training, but of course to play these sports, you have to have sport-specific training as well. So here's some photos of us engaged in sitting volleyball. I was just joking with Jen, who you'll hear from next. We measure impact by smiles. So we see lots of smiling faces there. So we'll have to formalize our program evaluation eventually. But yeah, we had lots of engagement. It was really important to me that this program was right in our brand new fishbowl gym so that everybody could see it. We have other more accessible gyms on campus, but they're in the basements of buildings. They're not visible. So to me, that wasn't achieving the goal of relatedness and social contact by other people seeing the program. And a major win for me was I'd go every week and hurt my hamstring sitting on the floor. But I'd see little eyes in the lobby, like looking in, what are these weirdos doing on the floor? And then I invited the person in, they didn't want to play, they were nervous. But then I saw them again next week, wanted to play, wanted to engage. I just pulled the person in and said, you're playing, get on the floor, let's go. And then that person came regularly week after week. So to me, that was a major win, that just increasing awareness, increasing exposure, increasing opportunity. So that made me feel really good. What's our future look like at Lakehead? We have spent all $10,000 on stuff. I like what Michael said too, no staff equals no program, but no equipment also equals no program. If you don't have a bocce ball set or a sitting volleyball net, you are not playing any of those sports regardless. So we've invested in a lot of adapted equipment. Another sport that is popularly played in Thunder Bay is goalball for people with visual disabilities. I reached out to the Goalball Association. I'm sorry if anybody here works for them, but they quoted me $6,000 to buy their goalball equipment. I'm like, no, I'm not spending more than half of the grant on goalball equipment. So instead we bought rope, where you can tape rope onto the floor and then the athletes can feel the rope, feel the perimeter of the area. Instead of spending $500 on the vision occlusion goggles, I just went to Fabricland and bought a whole bunch of fleece fabric, and sewing is not an imposition for me. I love it. So, okay, so for my job, sounds good. And then I made visors that people can wear, and then everyone's on an equal playing field because everyone's vision is occluded. I did not agree with this at all, but Bryce wanted to graduate. He wanted to finish his program and move on from Lakehead. So now I'm thinking about sustainability of our programs in the future. Because I teach, I have embedded this work in my classes. So I've tasked students now with designing activity guides or skills and drills plans or lesson outlines that are for like a 1-hour try it session or an 8-week try it session. I give them grades to do these assignments, so they're very motivated to engage. So now I have students working on guides to sitting volleyball, guides to bocce ball, so that we can give the guidebook to future coaches and say, okay, here's like an activity plan for you to coach this sport. And they don't have to start from nothing. A lot of these activity plans already exist with the parasport organizations. And now, as I said, we can't just measure smiles. I don't think the Ontario Trillium Foundation wants to hear that in their report. So we have to formalize the program evaluation. We did it a little bit backwards at Lakehead. So I had the coach, I had the sport. So we just barged in there and got it done and made it happen right initially in the first year. But now we were provided this document from the Toronto Accessible Sport Council that was all about assessing readiness and how to make your space, your program, your institution ready to accept and to host parasport activities. I love this guide. I've given it to my students. There's a lot of information in the front about person first language and about the word para, and does that connotate something different than Special O would, or, you know, what is the best language to use around these programs? I tell my students, you know, label your jar of preserved pickles that you did over the summer, but don't label people and don't label programs. So I was really sensitive about how I labeled this program, because I didn't want Special O athletes or para athletes or adapted athletes or able-bodied athletes to think this is not for me. So this was a very inclusive program for everyone. One of the things I took out of the assessing readiness guide, a couple things, were the 10 Ps. So I think this was developed by University of Alberta and it was included in this guide. There's 10 Ps, but there's a couple Ps that I like. So working on programming, so considering the equipment that we need and buying programming to be inclusive, considering pathways, and considering partnership. So how do we formalize our partnership with the organizations? We didn't even know all the organizations in Thunder Bay, so getting that information collated and together was really important to ensure the sustainability of this work. I'm also conscious too, and this was the 100% value added of this program, is that we could rely on each other. So we met every month, all of the pilot schools met together, and we could engage with each other, talk about our strengths and weaknesses, what was successful, what was not successful. And one thing that was brought up by my colleagues, so shout out to all you guys for helping me with this work, is not everyone wants to engage in physical activity in a gym setting. Not all people want to go to the gym. They just want to move around. So, you know, I'm trying to look at how can we engage students beyond the gym, beyond the sweaty, stinky, loud weight room. You know, what do they want to engage in? So we also have used the Rick Hansen Foundation guidelines on rating the accessibility of our spaces. If you Google Rick Hansen Foundation accessibility ratings, you'll get all of the resources for free. They're widely available. And I have students as well working for Marks. I was speaking to Laura yesterday and she told me I don't use the students, I engage the students. So that's a good clarification. So thank you for that. So I've engaged the students in doing a facilities audit, and I've noticed organizations are really like scared to have these audits done because they're going to be exposed for how inaccessible their spaces are. And I just say, like, yeah, you'll probably fail the audit, but this is good. This is the step to learning. This is how we get better, by first recognizing what we can improve on. And the students working on this, they've noticed all sorts of wild things, like the shower knobs in the shower are circular. So they're really hard for people with, limited upper extremity mobility to use. I was talking yesterday with the Unstoppable Tracy about, how do you get toilet paper when you're sitting on the can and, you need to reach down to get the toilet paper out. So it's all these little things that add up to big barriers that may prevent people from coming into our spaces. So we're working on that audit now. And we've increased the adapted, accessible training equipment and for the entire lifespan. So our facilities are open to the public. A lot of older adults use the facilities. So we bought equipment for people who have stroke, straps that can hold them on to the arm ergometer so that they can use our equipment. Sometimes it's just little things that make all the difference for folks. And I've also had the students rate accessibility of the student union building, of the cafeteria, of the pathway to the gym, so that it's not just the gym that gets the focus, but it's all of the spaces that we work in on campus that get the focus. At the end of last year, we also put out a survey to students. Nothing about us without us. I'm not just going to buy what I like, because it would all be figure skating equipment. But what do you guys want? So we put the survey out to the students, and there were some good answers, some different answers. So the students said, we want a ping pong table and then adapted paddles. And I'm like, perfect, we can buy you that, no worries. So we got a ping pong table, put it in more of a public place so that they can engage in ping pong. Another tip I got from my university crew colleagues was getting like outdoor games like the big Plinko game or X's and O's. And it's just more stuff that can be used by anyone and everyone. One student responded that they wanted an adapted version of Quidditch that's played in Harry Potter. So if anyone has any ideas for that, please let me know, because I'm not sure how we're going to figure that one out. And we really want to engage the students with disabilities, especially with what they want. So another tip I got from my university and post-secondary colleagues was engaging student accessibility services. So these are departments on campus that work with people with disabilities. And at Lakehead, we don't keep this information. It's confidential. We don't have like a list of all Lakehead students with a disability. I can't go on campus and be like, oh, you're in a wheelchair. Like, what do you want? So we have to somehow get that information. So now I'm working with SAS on their intake forms and just having an open-ended question like, how could Lakehead support you? What equipment might you need to fully enjoy and appreciate your unconventional experience that you're going to have here at Lakehead? And then I'll take that information and spend the rest of the money with other important gear and equipment that we need. So that's where we are at Lakehead University with our adapted sports and recreation program. This November, we are going, or pardon me, December, we're going to have a sitting volleyball tournament. So, you know, the power of sport is very palpable. It's what was the genesis of the entire Paralympic Games, that Dr. Gutman used sport to trick people into thinking that they were getting better. It's the reason why the Soldier On program is so strong with the Invictus Games. So I really like the metaphor, the lens, the vehicle that is sport in learning about accessibility. And students commented like, I didn't know anything about disability before I took your class. I didn't even know what parasports were. And then they're like, yeah, we just sat on the floor and played volleyball. And all of a sudden, it wasn't those weirdos in the gym sitting on the floor playing volleyball. Now I'm one of the weirdos in the gym sitting on the floor playing volleyball. So it really helps them open their eyes to accessibility, to what inclusion is and what adapted sports are. And they're just simply sports that we change some factor so that everyone can be involved and everyone can play. So that's where we're headed up in Thunder Bay. And yeah, we're going to include lots of snow sports because we're coming into our snow season up there. So thanks very much. And now I'll pass it over to Jen and Nathania from Humber College.
Oh, is this thing? Oh, okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Jen O'Reilly. I'm the Recreation and Sport Coordinator at Humber's North Campus. I use pronouns she, her. I am an able-bodied white settler living, working, playing on the traditional treaty lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Etobicoke.
And my name is Nathania Braun. I go pronouns she, her, able-bodied white settler. And we're just very thankful to be part of this. And okay. So we're going to just go through a couple of things of where we started. So one, awareness was a big piece for us. Both Jen and I had, prior to getting this grant, had, gone through education, conferences, workshops. We've, participated in varying campus tours, so on different conferences. We also tried to do a lot of trade shows, just asking a lot of questions that really exposed, one, what we were not doing, what we were doing, and where we needed to improve. Yeah.
So we realized that we needed to do more work. We had just scratched the surface, but there was a lot that needed to be done. So we did a quick audit using the assessing readiness document that Taryn actually touched on before. So there was a whole list of the 10 Ps that were there. So we did go through a lot of them. So just policy, we don't and didn't have an official inclusivity statement. So between the two of us, we kind of threw some words down. What did we want to include? Who did we want to include? What really needed to be in there? we chose not to include it here because it's not official. We have something that we're kind of working with and working towards, but so we did write ourselves a little bit of a directional statement. We looked at just walking through our facilities. We're at 2 different campuses. At North, we are all in 1 building. At Lakeshore, they are in 3 buildings for 1 department. So just removing the barriers of like getting to different buildings. So outside in the winter, if someone is in a chair, it's really difficult to get from residence to the fitness center and then to the gym because they're in 3 different buildings. So just taking a really good look at our spaces. Programming, again, you got to have the equipment or you don't have the program. So we did use some of the grant money to purchase some equipment, but we also looked at what equipment do we have right now that we can use in a different way. And that allowed us to do things like sitting volleyball because we had pickleball nets. So we just used the pickleball nets as sitting volleyball nets. We looked at being proactive in all of our decision making. So just asking ourselves, are we using that inclusive lens when we're making our decisions? We recognize the need for different entry points for different participants. Not everybody wants to be a Paralympian. Some people came to us and they just wanted to play recreational sports. Some people who had come from other countries had never participated in sport before or never been permitted to. So we realized that there is all different entry points for where we wanted to go with our programming. So we couldn't just serve one population. We had to make sure everybody was included. Partnerships, hugely important. We wouldn't know what we know now if it weren't for our partnerships, both on our campuses and outside, especially members of the OPC and the post-secondary institutions group. We found ourselves learning a lot about our own facility based on what others were doing and saying. We looked at our promotions. We knew that we had to have representation in our promotions, but we wanted that to be organic. We wanted to have pictures of people in our facilities who were there for themselves, who weren't there because we asked them to come and be in our picture. So we knew that we had to have that representation and that our channels, we might need to change how we're marketing and who we're marketing to on our campuses. So just finding those different avenues of how we can get this information out. We looked at the people. Again, you have to have the people, you have to have the leaders. The leaders need the knowledge to run these programs or they're not successful and people don't feel like they really belong. Looking at price, it's always one we struggle with because in a lot of our programs are free already. So there are no fees for things. So to turn around and tack on a fee for something that's adaptive would not be a great idea. But also we like that idea of, well, it's subsidized a lot. And because of that, we'd like you to get involved. So we have 2 different streams, whether it's recreation or fitness, based on cost. Our participation is the ultimate goal. We want participants. How do we get participants? We want them to feel like they belong. We want to engage them. We want them involved in the planning. Yeah, so our participation is the ultimate goal. Is this me again? Okay, so next here is just being introduced to post-secondary institution group. How that happened is we had been in contact with Parasport Ontario for a number of years and basically using their equipment and their expertise to run some programs on our campus. And it was brought to our attention by Kevin Waters, who was there for a few years. He said, hey, you should really meet this guy, Jonathan, because his group at the Toronto Accessible Sport Council is doing this pilot project with schools. And I think you'd really, really fit with that group. So I had a quick chat with Jonathan and I said, what do we need to do? We're in. We don't know what we're getting into, but we're in. Just tell me how I need to get involved. So we participated in educational sessions. We connected to other schools. We learned a lot of things that we could do, but weren't doing. We learned a lot about people who are involved. We learned that the OPC existed. We didn't know that. So we were only involved as of last summer. So we're very late to the game. A lot of you have been doing a lot of work for a number of years, but we're just so thankful to have had the opportunity to be involved in this one. Yeah.
So how we kind of utilize the grant, one, Jen and I just started researching what kind of things can we take, what can we start reading. So just a lot of preparation, workshops, books, training, webinars. We purchased some time with a consult just to kind of overview like where are some things that we can start, language on our website. And obviously the equipment piece was one. There was those easy ones that were like, okay, we're going to buy some equipment. And so now that we have equipment, it's like, okay, now what can we produce? Can we produce education videos on how to use that equipment or how to adapt certain equipment that we already have within our facilities? So some of that grant money was used and utilized for that. We did an awareness video. Now, part of that awareness video is one, we wanted to have just stories that were told from our past students that we worked with through the last couple of years. They've been instrumental in really guiding us in the right direction, giving us feedback where we're able to pivot and grow. I think that was something that was such a great foundation for us to start with. So we were able to put a video together that is going to be part of one, we realized our website has nothing on what we have on campus, nothing adaptive, nothing accessible. So that's in process right now. And so we've been working with, we've connected with our accessibility office. We're going to be doing a project. I'll speak a little bit more on that a little bit later. But that's been such a great growth for us. But the video is going to be a piece that one, it is that storytelling. And then part of that will be a resource guide in terms of what's on campus, who are our campus partners, outside, inside, who can they be in contact with? So we're trying to build that out. So it is in production right now, but that video was something that we put together with some of that grant money. And then.
So this is kind of our timeline of what we've talked about so far. We were engaging in accessible sport as far back as 2017, actually hosting programs. It was kind of on a slow moving pace. I will say it's still slow now, but since being in contact with the OPC and our other university colleagues, we have really increased our attention to adaptive sport. So you can see here, like we've added a few things each time. We've got unified basketball, our recreation for special populations. We have paired with our rec and leisure academic class. So they'll come in second semester each year, and their students will participate in some try-it sports. So we bring in 6 or 8 different sports, and the students can try it. That's just an awareness piece so that they can see what's out there. A lot of them don't know that these sports exist or where they are in the community, how to get in contact with those running these programs. So we've really made it a point to connect with our academics. We have adaptive inclusive drop-in sports. So during a regular drop-in, say we have volleyball, the first 30 minutes is actually sitting volleyball. It's more of a learn to play. It's for beginners. It's an easy entry point. And if people would like to stay for regular volleyball, that's great. If they want to continue playing sitting volleyball, that's great too. We'll leave those nets up. So we've been able to pivot based on what the students are interested in and what they're participating in. On our work integrated learning side, we do offer internships for students who are interested in working in all facets of sport. This year, we hired 2 students from our community integration program. So that's for people with cognitive impairments. So we did hire 2 students to help facilitate our unified basketball. And their role was to engage their friends and really ensure that the friends and the people in their program were having a good time. And if there was something that we weren't reaching, they could bring that to us, and together we would address how we could make that better for them. So it really was a collaborative effort to ensure that our unified basketball players really did have the experience that they were hoping for. Increasing education awareness. That was pretty much for us and for our student staff. We are a team of 2. So we don't have a lot of time, and we definitely don't have the expertise to be training everybody. So educating ourselves about who we could reach out to educate others. That has been so valuable, being part of the OPC and just learning who the players are, who the people are in the room. Really good learning experience for us. yeah, and then here we are at the OPC Summit. So that was our quick little timeline. We just want to show some pictures of some of the things that we've run on our campus. Some of these are drop-in sports. Some of these are organized class activities. Some are part of larger carnivals. We have had a lot of different sports played on our campus. The only one that we didn't actually run was the power chair hockey, but I did want to highlight this one because a lot of post-secondary students are worried about their facilities and their floors. This doesn't damage the floors. Just putting that out there right now, it can be played. And Severio, who's in the front of that picture, actually worked for us many years long before this picture was actually taken. And we just happened to have a picture of him from playing in the Toronto Sport Championships in our campus. So just a full circle moment. Oh, go back one more. Just wanted to touch on evaluations. We don't have a lot of research capacity. Nathaniel and I, we're not researchers. We take the research that's kind of told from this group. What do we need? What does this group say that we need? And we do it. We're going to find a way to do it. We're going to find a way to run things. And we do measure the impact, not based on numbers, but based on the experience of the people that are in the program. If they're smiles, if they're returning, if they apply for a job with us, if they bring their friends, if we have parents calling and thanking us for the great experience that their child had, that is a successful program. It might be 5 people a year that you get that from, but those 5 people are what drives us to continue to do the types of things that we're doing.
Awesome. So this was just, again, some things that we had currently purchased and things that with the grant we had purchased on campus. And like I said, I think what we're moving towards now is just, we have our platform, we have YouTube and that. And so we want to make sure we're showcasing like how to use equipment. I think for a lot of folks coming in, we actually had one of our students, she's pictured here. She comes from Dubai. She came and she's like, I've never been in a fitness facility. And so there was a lot of learning, right? And so each individual has, she's like, I have no idea what to do. And we'll hear from her in our video, but for her coming here and then having, oh, great, you have, active hands. I'm not sure what that is. And so I think we want to create just one, students, this is the first time maybe they're walking into our space, making sure we have, videos like we have learn to squat, learn to do this. We want to make sure we're engaging in some of that education on some of the equipment that we have. So it doesn't seem so scary and that we can help support our students that way. I think here's where we have our video that we had completed. So.
Fitness and movement and sport are for everybody because everyone needs to move in order to perform well and to excel and feel great on the day-to-day. Adaptation and modification occurs on the daily, even if fitness and sport or recreational professionals don't think about it or students don't think about it. What one needs to understand is there is now the opportunity for that modification to occur within adaptive fitness.
I used to live in Dubai. We did not have a lot of gyms or places to work out, especially for women to begin with. But then I signed up with a trainer and I was her first client as a person with a wheelchair. And then slowly I started coming like once with her and then once by myself, once with her and then twice by myself until I started coming 4 to 5 times over here.
I've been playing wheelchair basketball for the past 10 years. When I first started playing, for example, wheelchair basketball, it was a bit of a challenge. With my years of being in a wheelchair, I've learned to adapt with not only people with disabilities, but also how to play with able-bodied people. Everyone wanted to include me in different things. Like at the gym, when I was watching people play basketball, a lot of people were asking me if I wanted to play, even though I was in a wheelchair. I was very happy about that.
The first time somebody told me about para sport, like sitting volleyball, it took me a whole year or 2 before I actually decided to go ahead and try it. It's a really nice opportunity to have. If you get into basketball, you can go play college and states. You can go play in that league where there's a national championship every year. But even then, just having a place at colleges where you can use their facilities, have a nice environment going on is a really big thing that personally is a goal of mine to try and make happen in Ontario.
Variety Village is at its most base level is a rec center. It is a fully accessible facility. Some people call this place heaven. We wish there were more of them because there's only one Variety Village and we need more of them.
What's most important to remember is that we all have limitations. Some of them are more visible than others, but we all have days which are considered not good days. I see my limitations as giving me an advantage to be stronger, and that's what I want for everybody else.
Awesome. So just onto our next slide, that readiness guide really helped us, I think, start asking the right questions as we were leading into programming, policy. And so we found ourselves kind of indifferent whenever we looked at something specific. We're like, hey, we're a connector here, we're a contributor here. And so as we move through that, I think that really helps us start to plan like what our future looks like, what we can do now versus, okay, this is maybe in the next year, and how we plan that out, how we allocate time, money, energy, programming, all that. So, you know, we ask ourselves those questions constantly on where, one, can we create more partnerships on campus, which is going to lead to, I'll go here. So recently we've been approved, athletics has been approved to work on a special project, and it's under the priority 3 of our academic plan, empowering and teaching and learning. And so what we also notice is that it's great that we're as a, you know, our full-time staff learning, we're a student-run facility. We run through 150 student staff yearly, which means our training needs to be high. If our students are not engaged and don't understand, don't have awareness, don't have the education, they're front facing. And so our next project, we start, I'll be working with the accessibility office in the winter. We've been allocated specific time and money in order to create education for our student staff. And then, you know, we're hoping that by the end of that, that's also going to be a referral place. One, we're going to be doing some surveys. We're going to be able to connect with our students on a regular basis. We've grown so much just from the students that have been involved that they came to us, whereas we want to be a lot more proactive. And so as students are registering with the accessibility office, that there is a connection there to us for their well-being, that they have support, what can we do, and just having that dialogue on a regular basis. So I think we're really looking forward to that. I think this was a big push. I mean, we've both been working on our roles for a long time and haven't had this kind of connection with our accessibility office. So one, it's about time. And two, we actually now have some time dedicated to this project, which I think is going to allow us to be able to just grow faster, but also really mindfully and being able to engage our students on a yearly basis, because that our students do change from year to year. And we want to make sure we're keeping that dialogue open.
So we don't want to lose momentum. We've been growing for a number of years now. We just want to make sure that everything that we're doing is in collaboration with people that have the education and the lived experience. So one thing that my goal for the winter semester is to create and hire an intern specifically for inclusive and adaptive sport, somebody with lived experience, somebody who is in a rec or a sport program, to have that specialized training, experience, knowledge, and interest in running the program so that it doesn't fail. This will be a pilot project for that specific position. And hopefully each semester there's that intentional hiring of a student in that position. So it's a recurring position. So that's the way that we kind of see ourselves continuing with this, even after the grant has finished. Our intention is to stay connected to those in the post-secondary institution realm, whether they were part of this or not. There are other schools doing some great work that weren't involved that we can also learn from, and just being able to tell people about what we have. The awareness piece is so huge. And that's why I created the video. Some of you might recognize some of the people on the video as maybe they weren't Humber students, but they had a little bit of impact in our learning and our journey. which impacted this student journey. So we wanted to make sure to include those voices as well.
Thank you.
Last one. Contact information is there if anybody is interested to reach out.
That was great. I just, every time I hear these stories, and I've heard a lot of them, I get jazzed, I get inspired. I'm very inspired by, these are just 3 of the schools of the 9 who've participated in this pilot project. They all have their stories. They all have their impact stories. I think, what came through for me was the power of partnerships more than anything. You cannot go it alone. You need to figure out who is in your region, in your community, that has the expertise, that has the equipment, that has the know-how. You need to partner with them. You could see 3 different ways in which those partnerships were established and how they were used and how they were leveraged, based on the strengths and weaknesses of each of the communities, the strengths and the weaknesses of the built environment of each university and college. So that bespoke approach, that custom approach to each way of doing this is also important. We don't have that model yet. We don't have that gold standard. I think what it is that you can see all those components, the 10 Ps, other things in the assessing readiness document that you may find at your institution, and that's your starting point. I think what's key is that you have that starting point and that within now with the post-secondary institution network that we've established, that there is that resource to go to for knowledge sharing as well. And just as a closer, I'll have you know that we've had additional schools already who were not part of the pilot project approach us, schools from Ontario. Just had recently interest from the West Coast, from British Columbia, that they're interested in doing some para-programming on campus there, both with PSO actually was the one that reached out. So that's also interesting, and maybe coming from that PSO angle and how they can get attached to post-secondary institutions as well, and not necessarily the school reaching out the other way. So thank you to the 3 schools who came today. Appreciate your time and your efforts in their presentations. And we do have an evaluation report that was produced by our partners at Western University that is available for those of you who want to. It'll be part of the resources that are available to the delegates. So I strongly recommend you look at that, because it does talk about how each of the schools approached the project and how they used the assessing readiness document and some of the recommendations coming out of that. So thank you again for attending.